That's more like it. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to the Anime Station. No such for anything and everything animation. Welcome to my review of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. People who are fans of the book don't like this one, and those that have never read the book really love this one. So, where I fall on this side, I fall on the other side. I love Goblet of Fire, man. This is a much-needed bounce back after the frustrating disappointment of Prisoner of Azkaban. Why? Well, let's not waste any extra time here. We're going to dive straight into the plot summary. We'll talk about the new castings only. I'll try to skip over all the main ones that are just returning people. And then I'll give my overall thoughts if there's no trivia. Alright, let's begin. On the early morning hours of the 16th of August of 1994, Frank Bryce is murdered by the hands of Lord Voldemort, who is apparently plotting to get to him with the aid of Wormtail and an unidentified young man. Harry Potter is woken up from the dream involving this by Hermione. Harry then travels by Portkey with his friends and the Weasley family to the 422nd Quidditch World Cup with Amos and Cedric Diggory, played by Robert Pattinson, whereby they witness the defeat of Bulgaria to Ireland. After the match, a gang of Death Eaters sparks terror among the crowd, and Harry is separated from the others in the confusion and is knocked unconscious. After the destruction of the campsite, the unidentified young man from Harry's dream casts the Dark Mark into the sky, but flees when the others find Harry. Harry, Ron, and Hermione arrive at Hogwarts, where they learn that the Triwizard Tournament will be taking place at the school this year. Delegations of students from the Beauxbatons and Durmstrang schools arrive at Hogwarts to take place in the tournament. However, during introductions, Alistair Mad-Eye Moody enters the Great Hall and is introduced as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, since Lupin resigned following his little secret getting out to the crowd. The Goblet of Fire, a magical object that selects the participants for the tournament, selects Fleur Delacour, Victor Crumb, and Cedric Diggory. However, before the celebrations begin, an unexpected fourth name is ejected from the goblet and is revealed to be Harry, of course. Albus Dumbledore proceeded to interrogate Harry as how his name got into the goblet, as there was an age ring around there keeping anyone under the age of 17 from being able to enter. So that obviously that means that realistically, Harry, Ron, Hermione, or any of them should not be allowed in, because they're only 14 at this point, if I remember correctly. Hold on, rehydration. Sorry about that. Stay hydrated, guys. And, okay, no, this is not a sponsorship. This is just a free little product shout-out. Shout-out to Circle. Their filters for bottled water are freaking amazing. They're delicious. Try it out. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can check them out. Not paid sponsorship, just free promotion. His innocence is confirmed by Moody, but Harry is still required to compete in the tournament, as Barty Crouch Sr. states that Harry is under a magical binding contract. The majority of the students in the school believe Harry had cheated by entering into the tournament himself, and because of this incident, this made Ron jealous, causing him to shun Harry away and test their friendship. Harry soon learns that the first task is to steal a golden egg from a dragon, after Rubeus Hagrid shows him the dragons for the task in the Forbidden Forest, where he meets the head of the floor of the Beauxbatons. I forget her name. The head of the Beauxbatons, who he becomes smitten with, and this is technically him and her going out on a date. He has a flower in his jacket, he combed his hair back. It's so adorable. Their relationship in this movie is so adorable. He informs Cedric of the upcoming task, and thanks from Moody, is able to capture the egg using his Firebolt broomstick, which Moody told him that he's not allowed to bring an object in there, but he is still allowed to bring his wand. And using that, he uses Accio, which summons his Firebolt and makes it a little easier to get the egg. After, of course, getting chased by the dragon all over the place. Ron realizes that Harry would never knowingly put himself into such danger without knowing it beforehand, and the two make up and begin talking once more. During the winter holidays, Hogwarts plays host to a Yule Ball, but the evening ends on a bad note as Ron's jealousy learns that Hermione had a date with Victor. Harry later has a similar dream to the one he had over the summer, but from the point of view of Frank, and wakes when Frank is killed by Avada Kedavra, the killing curse. Grateful for his tip-off about the dragons, Cedric tells Harry how to solve the clue with the egg and advises him to take his egg and mull things over in the hot water of a nice bath. Harry listens to the golden egg in the prefect's bathroom and correctly deduces that the second task involves a trip to the Black Lake to find something that has been taken from him. After being snooped on by Myrtle. Because this movie's going to make good use out of that PG-13. And unfortunately, I think this is the last time we see Myrtle in the movies, which is a shame, but she goes out on a pretty funny, entertaining little scene. It's a bit pervy, but it's funny. Having obtained gillyweed from Neville before the task, since Moody had given him a book on herbology, he uses it to swim under the lake for an hour and rescue Ron from the Mer people. He also frees Gabrielle Delacour, as Fleur does not arrive due to her being attacked by the Grindylows. Yep, Fleur kind of sucks in this tournament. She is just straight up bad. She was terrible in the first task, even though she did somehow still get her dragon egg. It's never really explained. This task, she's immediately taken by Grindylows and forced to forfeit. And then the third and final task in the maze, she's the first one to get captured by the magic maze's roots of death. Yeah, she's terrible in this tournament, and it's a huge problem with this movie. His act of saving Gabrielle, despite her not being Harry's hostage, allows him to gain second place and ties his points with Cedric for outstanding moral fiber, while earning him 2 kisses from Fleur herself, as well as her kissing Ron. Ron had asked Fleur out to the dance, and she said yes, and he kind of flipped out a little bit. And he felt bad about it, so this was kind of his way of... This was her way of making it up to him. After the task, Harry meets with Barty Crouch, who congratulates him of his achievements and stating that Harry's parents would be very proud of him. Crouch's talk is cut off by Moody, who begins to make accusations that Crouch is trying to recruit Harry into the Ministry of Magic. As Crouch walks towards Moody, he flicks his tongue, which alarms Crouch before he leaves, because that little specific movement reminds him of a certain somebody. While wandering the forest with Hagrid and the others, he finds Crouch's body and heads to Dumbledore's office in the castle, where Cornelius Fudge argues with Dumbledore and adamantly tells Dumbledore that he will not be seen as a coward and will not cancel the Triwizard Tournament. Dumbledore, Fudge, and Moody leave the office when Harry's presence is made known, Dumbledore letting Harry know that he can have a licorice snap, but warns that they are a wee bit sharp. In his haste, Harry picks some of the candy up, but they start jumping around and biting his hand. He stumbles and hits a hidden floor switch, revealing the pensieve, toward which Harry steps toward carefully and cautiously. He suddenly falls into the depths of the pensieve after staring into the mist and falls into a courtroom, where he learns that Igor Karkaroff used to be a Death Eater, even though Sirius Black already told him that in an earlier scene, so that's just repetition. And that Crouch Sr. used to have a son by the same name. Harry suddenly recalls that Crouch's son looked very much like the unknown man in his dreams. When he's informed Dumbledore of this recollection, Dumbledore urges him to put it out of his mind for now, because he knows it would be a distraction from the tournament and possibly get him killed in the process. While making his way back to Gryffindor Tower, he catches sight of Karkaroff's dark magic while he argues with Severus Snape in a potion store cupboard. Snape then maliciously taunts Harry about the supposed thefts of boomslang skin, lacewing flies, among many others, saying that he and his friends are brewing Polyjuice potion again, which they're not, but it's an obvious assumption that he would be doing it again because he did it 2 movies ago, threatening to use Veritaserum on Harry if any more ingredients go missing. The third task consists of a maze, and the champions only need to find the Triwizard Cup in the center, which has been placed there by Moody, and only Moody knows its actual location inside the maze. The maze is later seen to be enchanted and blows gusts of winds every so often to disorient the champions. During the maze challenge, Krum stuns Fleur and attempts to do the same to Cedric, but he's stunned when the latter uses a disarming charm. And it's later revealed that Victor was bewitched by an outside force to become this weird, murderous thing. Not really well explained. Harry stops Cedric from attacking Crumb further and runs off before noticing the cup. They both run towards it, but Cedric is caught by the roots and nearly engulfed by them. But Harry saves him. The two grab the cup themselves and are teleported to the graveyard of Lale Hangleton, where Harry recalls his dreams of being in this place. But before he can explain further, Wormtail arrives with the little baby Voldemort, causing Harry to clutch his scar in pain. Seeing the danger, Harry desperately tells Cedric to go back to the cup, but a cauldron standing between them activates, making Harry suffer pain in his scar even more. Cedric is killed by Wormtail, and Harry is pinned to the statue of the Angel of Death, which is the grave of Tom Riddle's father. And yeah, let's talk about Cedric's death here a little bit. It's sad to see him go, and it's also kind of shocking considering how big of a name Robert Pattinson is. Like, even before freaking, I think this was made during his peaks in Twilight, so I mean, he was becoming a big name, so seeing a big name like that go that quick, that's pretty crazy. Like, you'd expect him to at least survive until one more movie, but no, he's killed and introduced in the same film. And I'd argue it's a little bit rushed, but I feel like the book suffers from that same problem, so I'm not going to be that hard on it. Not to mention, Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory, he's okay, he's fine. He's a good-natured guy, he means well, but he does want to win. So yeah, it's sad to see him die, but we don't really get the effects of his death until both the end of this movie and the real effects at the start of the next movie. To an extent, because it's continuously brought up as like a driving force for some of the students when they rebel against probably one of the most evil, vile, but also amazing villains the series has had since Voldemort himself. Who do I mean? I'll tell you all about it in the next review. So yeah, Cedric's death is tragic, but we don't really feel the effects of it until after Harry escapes from Voldemort. Wormtail drops Voldemort into the potion, puts a bone of his father into it, cuts off his hand, and draws blood from Harry. The additions revive Voldemort. When Voldemort is fully revived, he summons the Death Eaters to the graveyard and fits Wormtail, who's also known as Peter Pettigrew. They renamed him for some reason, but never explain it, with a new silver hand. Voldemort admonishes them for leaving him, and then spots Harry and explains to the Death Eaters about how Harry survived while he was rendered powerless and disembodied, then touches Harry's scar, causing pain to Harry. Voldemort then frees Harry and forces him into a duel. After they duel, their spell causes the effect of Perori Incantatum. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The spirits of the people killed by Voldemort's wand, Harry's parents, Cedric, and Frank Bryce, exit out of Voldemort's wand, and watch the two fight. Harry's father tells him that as soon as the connection is broken, they shall create a diversion to hold Voldemort and the Death Eaters for a few seconds so Harry can get back to the cup. Cedric asks him to take his body back to his dad. Harry does not break contact until his mother orders him to do so. The spirits create the said diversion, giving Harry enough time to get to Cedric's body and summon the Triwizard Cup with the Accio spell, and then teleport back to Hogwarts. Voldemort roars in fury when this plan fails. And it's also revealed that Lucius is a Death Eater. I mean, I thought that was obvious, but this is the official reveal of it. Also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is the first beam struggle of the Harry Potter series, the first of many to come, because you see the two wands connect with the two streams of power fighting against each other. It's epic, and then the music in the background just tops it off. Beautiful introduction to a mechanic that's going to become very vital within the next few movies as beam struggles will become more and more prominent. Now, would I say this is up there with something like the first Kamehameha versus the Gallic Gun from Dragon Ball Z? Yes, but I'd say it in a different way. With Goku and Vegeta, it was like just the pure power they were both exerting out of their bodies just to try and kill each other. Whereas with this, it's more about its epic scale and ambiance. So they're both great for different reasons, but I think this one is just slightly behind it. But I'd say they're both about on equal footing. I just prefer the beam struggle there because it's done with hands and not with any kind of outer object. Personal taste thing. It's still cool. And also, this whole Frank Bryce thing is dumb. Like, he barely does anything in the movie. It's dumb, it's pointless, and it barely has any bearing on the plot whatsoever that he's even in here. So, yeah, the whole Frank Bryce thing is dumb. But that's really one of my only big complaints with the movie. Upon Harry's arrival back at Hogwarts, the entire community and the two other schools start to celebrate at first, but then express horror when they see that Cedric is dead and hear Harry's testimony that Voldemort has returned. Moody secretly takes Harry away from the maze and into his office, while Cedric's dad mourns his death, as well as Cho, who was kind of his girlfriend, so you can imagine the pain she must feel seeing her boyfriend's dead body. Like, oh man, it sucks. Cho's such a sweet character. I hate that they did that to her. But, I mean, it was made for the sense of being dramatic, and not to mention, it's one of the first deaths we see on screen of a somewhat major-ish character. So, yeah, it's pretty much the domino that starts the downfall and the uprisal of Lord Voldemort. Alright, let's move on. Moody secretly takes Harry away from the maze and into his office, where he reveals himself to be behind all the events. It was he who put Harry's name in the goblet, suggested that Hagrid takes Harry into the woods to see the dragons, informed Cedric of how to discover the clue in the egg, gave Neville Longbottom the book about herbology, which gave him the idea of the gillyweed, bewitched Victor and the maze to become a bit more murderous, and made the Triwizard Cup a portkey to take them to that graveyard. Pretty much revealing he was the big evil guy behind this the whole time. Dumbledore, realizing that the real Moody would not get Harry away from him, forcibly breaks into his office with Snape and McGonagall, and disarms him. After Snape forces Veritaserum down Moody's throat, the latter indicates that a magical trump where the professors and Harry discover the real Moody. The Polyjuice potion then wears off, and the imposter is revealed to be Bottomless Crouch Jr., who impersonated Moody to access Hogwarts, arranged events to ensure Harry made it to the third task, stole Snape's stores, and escaped from Azkaban. Somehow. His wand pointed at the latter's face, Bartimaeus makes a final snake-like flick of his tongue, his trademark move, which was the move that he accidentally did earlier when he was talking with his dad, which then he led to kill his dad. Yeah, it's a nice little piece of foreshadowing if you're paying attention. A memorial feast is held at the Great Hall in memory of Cedric, where Dumbledore announces against the Minister's will that Voldemort is once again back. Afterwards, Harry, Ron, and Hermione reflect on the events, knowing that Hogwarts will never be the same again. As the poster's tagline says, everything is about to change. And that's the story of Goblet of Fire. It's a really great story. I love the tournament thing. I mean, you know me. I'm a sucker for tournament arcs, even if it's in just a movie and not a saga. I mean, you heard me gush all about tournament arcs and stuff like that in the Dragon Ball reviews, but here, even though it's just one movie, it's still really cool. And I feel like they really handled the idea well. I love the diversity, I love the designs, I love the creativity. And not to mention, we finally see the return of Lord Voldemort for real. And Ralph Fiennes does an amazing job in the role. So, yeah, great story. My only problem with the story was, again, the whole freaking... What was his name again? I'm already forgetting. Frank Bryce. The whole Frank Bryce thing. That's really my only big gripe with the movie. It's stupid. And a little minor gripe with the over-the-top, cheesy teen angst. That does get a little bit grating, but it's supposed to be, because this is them starting to transition into adults. So it kind of makes sense for them to have that sassy, angsty bite to them instead of just being the happy-go-lucky characters that we're familiar with. Alright, next up is our cast, and like I said, I'm just going to try to go through the new ones specifically because a lot of these guys just keep coming back with every movie, though I will give a special shout out to Shirley Henderson, her final appearance as Monty Myrtle in the movies. Great job. Gary Oldman, Sirius Black, I already talked about him in the last review. Arthur, Ralph Fiennes as Lord Voldemort, I just talked about that. Timothy Spall as Peter Pettigrew was in the last movie. David Tennant as Barty Crouch Jr. Yes, that David Tennant. He's pretty good. He has a very small role, but he's pretty good. And then who else is in here? There's so many people, man. There's so many people. Now, who was the guy that played Moody? Here he is, Brendan Gleeson. Even though that this was obviously Barty Crouch Jr. as Polyjuice Potion disguised Moody, before that secret even comes out, we do get a good impression of the actual Moody. And I like him. He's a bit of a goofy, psychotic character, yes, but you can tell he means well, and he does want to be a good guy, and even though he can be a bit of a hard ass, it's also because of all the things he's been through. I mean, he literally lost his eye, for frick's sake. I mean, would you be a happy, cheery guy if you lost your eye too? Didn't think so. But he's definitely way better in the other movies when it's the real Moody. But the Moody that we saw in Goblet, even though it was an imposter, I mean, it still has his mannerisms, it still has his personality. So, yeah, I like Moody. He's a pretty cool character, and I think Brendan Gleeson does a good job with the performance, but I feel like he does a little bit better when he's the actual Moody in the other movies. That's just my personal opinion. And then there's the huge cast of people. And differences from the book and the movie. There's a lot of differences from the book if you want to look it up. It's actually pretty fascinating. Come on, where are the facts? That's mistakes behind the scenes. Home video. No facts again? No trivia? Oh man, that's a bummer. Okay. Well, no trivia again. That's a shame. Okay. Then let's just talk about the box office and then I'll give you my overall opinion. The film grossed $290 million in the USA and Canada market out of $896 million worldwide. This ranked it second behind the Sorcerer/Philosopher's Stone film among the first 4 Harry Potter films released, and it was for a while among the top 10 worldwide all time. But it is now 11th. The films passing it worldwide include Order of the Phoenix, naturally, because it felt like this movie just kept making more and more money every single sequel. Because, well, they had a plan and they executed it. They had some issues and stumbles, sure, but they mainly executed it pretty well. So, yeah. That's the box office, that's the acting, that's the story, that's the plot. My overall thoughts on the movie? I love this one. Like, I legit love this one. It was my favorite as a kid, even over Chamber, but nowadays it's kind of flip-flopped. Like, for me, it's always been between 3 movies in particular for my favorite. Chamber, Goblet, and the final one. And you will understand why when we talk about that final one, because, oh boy, is the final one a doozy. But recently I've been able to solidify my status with Chamber as my favorite. The big finale is the second favorite. So Goblet of Fire lands in a very solid 3rd spot. But don't discredit it just because it's 3rd place. It's still a fantastic movie in my opinion. It's funny. Sure, it's a bit angsty. The whole Frank Wide thing is stupid. And yes, I wish Fleur Delacour did better in the tournament so we could actually root for her instead of just, being incompetent. But it's whatever, and it kind of makes sense considering the fact that Wizarding School was more of a preppy girls' club rather than an actual dueling school like Hogwarts or Durmstrang, so it kind of makes sense that she would do so badly in the tournament, but At the same time, it's frustrating. Sorry, I'm running in circles here. Point is, Goblet of Fire is a fantastic installment. It's a much-needed bounce back after the frustrating disappointment of Prisoner of Azkaban. And from here, in my opinion, it only got better. To an extent. I still say that this is among the top 3, but that's not to discredit any of the ones that are coming after it, because we're up for some really great ones coming up. So trust me when I say that Prisoner was the one time I got frustrated with this franchise. From here on out, it's pretty much all praise. Starting with this one and its final verdict of a high, do I want to give it an 8 or do I want to give it a 9? You know what? Screw it. I enjoy this movie. I love this movie. I've never stopped loving this movie. So you know what? 9 out of 10 for the final verdict. 9 out of 10. That puts it about on the same pedestal as Sorcerer/Philosopher's Stone, but in my opinion, it's better because it takes a lot more risks. It has a cool tournament setting, and it has the actual real return of Lord Voldemort after a bunch of fake outs in the first few movies. So, yeah, this is a great movie. I have a fantastic time watching it, and it's only gotten better over the years. But I can also understand some people don't like it because it is very teen angsty. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for the freaking awesome and epic AF film that is Order of the Phoenix.